You are listening to Fantha Tracks.
Fast ship. Never heard of the William Paul?
Should I have?
It's the ship that made the Kessel run in less than 12 parsecs.
What a piece of junk.
Covering Star Wars vehicles in less than 12 parsecs, this is Start Your Engines.
Don't get technical with me.
Here are your hosts, Paul Naylor and Mark Newbold.
You're listening to Start Your Engines. I'm your co-host Mark Newbold, and joining me today is a man who, if he was a Wi-Fi network, his signal strength will be very good. It's Paul Naylor. How you doing, man?
Oh, if only people knew why you'd come up with that.
Hey, but they never will. They never will.
Concentrate all firepower on that main ship. Good afternoon, good evening, good night, and goodbye. And how are you?
Oh, yes. Very well, thank you. I'm very much looking forward to discussing our next ship on Start Your Engines, which is the Nau'ur-class yacht, the First Light. That's basically the vessel that you see Dryden Voss use in Solo: A Star Wars Story, which weirdly, and I can't believe, is 6 years old already.
I know. It's a shocker, isn't it? It shares its same anniversary as
Return of the Jedi and A New Hope.
Yep.
And Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. So it was all kicking off on the 25th of May. And of course, George got his honorary Palme d'Or as well on that day.
Yes, he did.
So it's definitely,
it's a lucky day.
As somebody once said, it's a day long remembered.
Yes, I wore a Star Wars shirt on that day and went to an event. I said it's Star Wars Day. No, that's May the 4th.
Oh,
No.
I was going to say the real fans know. That's not fair. No. Because there's plenty of Star Wars fans who've known nothing other than May the 4th.
Yeah.
May the 4th, people, is the gimmick Star Wars holiday. May the 25th is the actual Star Wars holiday. Because it's the anniversary of when the film came out. Many of the films came out. But we're not here to talk Star Wars history in that sense.
No.
You celebrate Star Wars whatever day you like. It's all
Solo.
Good. Solo: A Star Wars Story. The Nau'ur-class yacht. It was also commonly known as the Kalevala Star Yacht, or just the Kalevala. It was a type of custom-ordered luxurious yacht manufactured by Kalevala Spaceworks. Notable Nau'ur-class yachts included the First Light, which was owned by Dryden Voss. He was a high-ranking member of the criminal crime organisation Crimson Dawn, and the Coronet, which was owned by Duchess Satine Kryze of Mandalore. So, you saw this vessel first in the Clone Wars before you saw it in Solo.
Do you know roughly when in the series that we saw that?
Yeah, it was in the episodes The Mandalore Plot, Voyage of Temptation, and Duchess of Mandalore. So you're fairly early on in the Clone Wars timeline there with those episodes.
I think that's brilliant. I love that. When they pick something up years later on and put it into live action. Yeah. That really does it for me.
And it's been done a few times, hasn't it? We've done it with characters like Saw Gerrera and characters like that, and certain vessels and vehicles. Dr. Huang, who looks a little bit different when you see him in the animation.
Yeah, a little bit.
Basically the same, but they've done a great job of doing what they did with him in the Ahsoka, and hopefully we see him again. You see it, you read about it in Crimson Climb, but then you see it in Star Wars: A Solo Story, and obviously the adaptations. And it turns up in Crimson Reign as well, the Marvel comic series.
Right.
Manufacturer.
Kalevala Spaceworks. It's a yacht. Now, this blew my mind. When you consider the cost of the First Light is 850,000 credits, which tells you...
Well, it tells you that they've got a good political party and it's brought inflation down.
Which I can't believe. I mean, you see this vessel, it looks like a tower block, doesn't it? It's like a high-rise tower block.
It's really weird. It's like when I first saw it, it was like a cross between a tower block, but it also reminded me a bit of a B-wing, but without the wings.
Yeah, totally, yeah.
Because like B-wing, the wings could pop out, couldn't they? So it did have that profile.
Yeah.
And the other thing that stuck with me as well is similar to Jabba's sail barge, how it had got the vented shades.
Oh, the slats.
The slats.
Yeah.
You've got that on there as well. And I'm sure it's probably deliberate. Crime lords have these ships with with shutters on. It's all there to make you think subliminally, I'm sure.
It completely is. Well, interestingly, a preliminary version of the yacht was inspired by the collar of Bela Lugosi's vampire costume in Dracula.
Of course it was.
But the interior was inspired by the Marion County Civic Centre, which was designed by Frank Lloyd Wright. Now, George was a big fan of Frank Lloyd Wright.
And he's from Marion County.
Exactly. And it's 20 minutes from Skywalker Ranch. Yeah. So there's definitely real-world inspirations for that room. And it is such a striking area.
Yeah.
It's a great location early in the film. It's a brilliant location later in the film, but the fight kicks off.
When you see it first as an exterior shot, because it is so sort of sleek and narrow, when you get inside it and you've got all that wide expanse of space, it doesn't jar with it, but it sort of like makes you think, blimey, how big is this thing?
Yeah.
That whole room is fantastic as well with all the collectibles.
Yeah,
Dryden's
the
got
skull
in
from the Han Solo books and all the other little bits and bobs in there.
It's an absolute Easter egg delight, isn't it?
It's Easter egg fest.
Yeah, Easter egg fest.
I'm hungry now.
Hyperdrive rating.
It's got a Class 2 hyperdrive and a secondary Class 15 as a backup in case there's a problem.
Sensor systems.
It's got media range sensor systems, so it's got a fairly good range of vision in that sense, and it's equipped with navigation systems.
Armament.
Now, this vessel, unlike other vessels that we've talked about in the past, has got some hefty armament. It's got one port retractable turret-mounted quad laser cannon, one starboard retractable turret-mounted quad laser cannon, so it can protect itself from both sides.
Crew complement.
It's got a crew of one pilot, one co-pilot, one engineer and two gunners. So not the biggest crew, you'd be quite surprised. But it has numerous service crew, including stewards, chefs and bodyguards. It can take 40 passengers and has 6 months consumables.
Hey, this is Daniel Jose Older, and you are listening to Fantha Tracks.
For a character like Dryden Voss, who is a gang lord and he's constantly having meetings. They all seem very one-sided. He's quite a singular character, isn't he? He's not the friendliest guy in the world.
He's a straightforward kind of guy.
He's very straightforward. That they could go out on a tour and be out there for a while.
I'm pretty sure that in that scene where you see him chatting with Chewie and Han, there seem more than 40 people in that scene.
It feels like it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It feels like a very busy area. You got the band playing as well. You know, there's obviously a lot of his staff are there as well.
Major engagements.
It was present, obviously, for the showdown on Savareen, which is what we saw in Solo: A Star Wars Story. It's affiliated to Crimson Dawn.
Owners.
We see it owned by Dryden, and later, at the end of the film, by Kira, after she succeeds him in that Crimson Dawn role.
Yeah.
There's a
Careful
number
what
of...
you want, Kira, because you might get it.
You're not kidding. And that played out so well in War of the Bounty Hunters, the whole run of stuff that we got, Hidden Empire, we got all the stuff that we got, that great little run of miniseries a couple of years ago. It has a number of named crew members, which isn't always the case.
Okay.
GLOT-15, one of the droids on board, Eamon Graham, Hylobon Enforcers are on there as well. Yeah. Margot, which is the lady, the white-skinned lady with the cracked features, the cracked face, who I believe we interviewed at Star Wars Fan Fun Day a few years ago.
I think we did, didn't we?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we did. Otili, PALT-4, which is another droid, probably built by Lee Towersey, and Tote Ra, which just feels like a Raiders of the Lost Ark reference to me. So it's a beautiful ship. It's one that we saw mostly parked, if you want to call it that. You know, you see it parked up on Savareen. You've not really seen it in space. You do in the Clone Wars, but that's animation, that's slightly different.
Yeah, we've only really seen it within the atmosphere of a planet, haven't we? Yeah, I'd never really considered it as being parked, but it clearly was, wasn't it? Because when they entered it, after they'd gone and got the coaxium, and the only character that I could really remember other than Dryden Voss was that Eamon. They're empty.
Behind the scenes.
There's one beautiful bit of music. I think it's when it is parked. It's almost like a John Barry sort of James Bond type music.
That's so on the nose, isn't it? It's beautiful.
It's very much like in the early Bond films when they go to like in the volcano sort of.
That's a really good observation because they go for that feel in Last Jedi at Canto Bight.
But it
doesn't quite work for me in that one.
No.
But it totally lands in Solo.
Yeah. I don't even know whether it was intentional, but when I was watching it the first time, I thought, ooh, very Bondy.
Very Bondy.
Sure, our friend Mr. Mulcaster would have spotted that as well.
No doubt Mark would have picked up on that. It is a vessel, though, because it is so unique and it just looks so good. I mean, you did sit again, talking about Last Jedi, you saw the bombers at the beginning, the attack on the cruiser. That are sort of upright, not crucifixes, but they've got that kind of feel with like hefty B-wings, like that sort of build, that kind of look. And this is in that area, isn't it? But this feels more like a blade, doesn't it?
Yes, it does, yeah. Those kind of defied physics, didn't they? In many ways, speed, if nothing else. Whereas this, I mean, the first time I saw Solo, I got no idea what I was going to see.
Sure.
Right? I wanted to go into it completely not knowing what was going on. But you see that ship, because of the music and whatever, but you just know that it's going to be somebody that's got a bit of coin about them.
Oh yeah.
It looks, for want of a better word, posh.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like as if it's been through the wars.
Well, I mean, the great counterpoint in that film is the Falcon. When you see Lando's Falcon, we've not talked about Lando's Falcon, which I really am itching to do.
We will do.
You see Lando's Falcon, it's a sleek ship, it's a good-looking ship, you know it's a hot rod, you know it can go. And then Solo gets beyond the yoke and batters the crap out of it. So by the end of the film, it looks like the Falcon that we know.
By the end of the film, it looks worse than the Falcon.
It pretty much does. Yeah, and Han must have done so much work to get it up to spec. But when you put that ship against a vessel like the First Light, which is just opulent and gorgeous, the black design. It reminds me of the Heart of Gold from Hitchhikers. You know, it's got that, and you know, that whole sort of tone and Disaster Area, the band, you know, with the ship, the luxury ships that you see at the restaurant at the end of the universe. Kind of got that vibe about it. It's
also got like a Cloud City kind of vibe as well.
Big time.
That's a subtle hint that whilst this guy's coming across as very pleasant, don't trust him. He's going to be duplicitous.
For everything in one location, daily news, reviews, interviews, podcasts, video and social media feeds, bookmark FanthaTracks.com for Star Wars news 24/7, 365.
When you look at the eras, I mean, this is midway between the prequels and the original trilogy. That vessel feels to me like an overhang of the prequels.
Yeah, it does, because it feels like it comes from a more sort of a civilized period, if you like, in the way that it's decked out.
Yeah.
It's more multi-purpose than it is, let's get the job done, which is what the Falcon ultimately is, and what all the single fighter ships are, like the X-Wings and the TIE fighters. That feels more like, I could live in this. I mean, got quarters and everything.
Oh, totally. You can only imagine what Dryden's quarters were and guest quarters on there. I mean, I say that completely aware that you do see the Coronet in the Clone Wars, so it is literally a prequel era vehicle.
Yeah.
But, you know, they do a redesign, they tweak it, they make it look its own thing for when you get to Solo. It's definitely a vehicle I wish we'd seen more of.
Not too keen on the catering on board, though. Those cuttle clawfish, or whatever they were called.
Colo clawfish. Yeah.
Basically raw round trees jelly, wasn't it, before you put the water on it?
That's true.
Not great.
Your powers of observation are insane. When you think of this vessel, then, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Because, as you say, especially in Solo, it's a rough world they live in. You see Han on Corellia, rough life, scrum rat, all the tough stuff that him and Kira go through. Then he starts to get a bit of traction. He's on Mimban. He's in the trenches with Beckett and Val and Rio, and he starts to get a bit of purchase and starts to get out of it and meets Chewie, and it all starts to go on, and then bumps into Kira again a good few years later. It's very indicative of, and we can see it now because we've got past the movie and we've seen more of Kira, and we know that she ends up in a prime position in Crimson Dawn. Which kind of goes belly up by the end of the Marvel run of comic series, but she's still out there. What do you think now when you see a vessel like that? Because it's very incongruous in the gritty world of Solo, especially that film.
It was almost out of place, but it had got an arrogance about it that matched that of Dryden Voss. You never saw it zoom around. It just slowly drifted into shot. There it was parked up. And I don't remember it exactly whizzing off at the end of the film either.
No, it doesn't. I mean, Solo's watching it, Kira's looking out the window, and it's just cruising.
Yeah. It very, very well matched to the character of Voss. That's what I got from it. I thought, this ship, it looks a bit like a B-Wing. It's got some attitude about it. And this is just the ship. This isn't the people. The ship has got attitude. Don't think there's ever been a toy made of it. I
don't remember seeing one. I mean, this is one of the issues, slight dodge off the topic, but I think that's one of the issues because we get, not just in the filmic era, because this is pre-Disney Plus, but even then you were getting a film a year, and so back in the day you'd have 3 years to really flesh these things out in a totally different world of merchandise. If that was now, you feel like if you were getting a Star Wars film every 3 years, you'd be getting 3 3/4 versions of every character in the background.
Absolutely.
Whereas that's not happening these days. You're lucky to get half a dozen characters from a TV show.
It's a shame, isn't it? Because, I mean, we're both of an age where we can remember those 3-year gaps, and it did give the collectibles community, although the toy community back then.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
It gave them that chance to put out 3 or 4 waves of figures for each film. 2 for Star Wars, 3 for Empire.
3 or 4 for Jedi, wasn't it?
Yeah. Jedi, yeah. So I don't think there was a line of figures that had more stuff put out than Jedi. Jedi really did
definitely
go to town with its creatures and its vehicles and stuff. You don't get that now.
No.
Had that ship have been part of that film, I'm sure we'd have had it in some form.
It feels like a missed opportunity because there were certain playsets that came out for Solo, which were really good. The Kessel, the mines, and bits like that, and the Vandor train sequence.
Yeah.
But I'll just think of this vessel and think it's one of many ships that I really would like them to revisit.
Yeah.
In the same way that back in the day, 95, 96, Bantam released Tales from the Mos Eisley Cantina, Tales from Jabba's Palace, Tales of the Empire, Tales of the Bounty Hunters.
Yeah.
I think there was 5 books in total.
Yeah.
You imagine a Tales from the First Light. If things were slightly different, you would have had a Tales from Mazzy's Castle.
Yeah. But again, the First Light, that's the name of it.
Yeah.
Who knew? I think even real big hardcore fans of Star Wars, not everybody would know what the name of that ship was.
Because we've got so much coming at us so fast now.
Yeah.
Which sounds ridiculous. It's a 6-year-old film. But you think what we've had, we've had 3 seasons of Mando, we've had a season of Book of Boba, a season of Obi-Wan, we've had a season of Ahsoka. We've got a season of Acolyte on us right now, and all the animated stuff that's come since, and everything has got new stuff in it. Plus, I couldn't even tell you how many different issues or series of comics since then.
And I know it's a bit of a Marmite film to a lot of people, that even now you see on social media people slating Solo the film or aspects of it. I love that film.
Same. There's a question then, when you came out of the cinema after seeing Solo the first time, how did you feel?
Joyous.
Same.
Happy.
It's the happiest I've been coming out of a Star Wars film since Jedi.
Yeah. I came out of The Force Awakens thinking, great, where's this going next? Yeah. Rogue One, even though it did have a tragic ending, because it was leading into Episode 4, there was that upswing.
There was a purpose to what they did, wasn't there?
Yeah. But yeah, probably more than any of the other films of the Disney era. You're right. Yeah, it's a good point. I came out of that feeling, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And if they ever make a sequel, or if they ever get this Lando spin-off off the ground, be it a TV series or a film, please get Alden back on board and get him in as Han Solo again, because I think he did a great job. He didn't do an impersonation. He made it his own, and he did a blooming good job of it and all.
100% agree. And if they do that, which I heartily endorse and recommend and think they really, really should, get him and Eunice back together and get this First Light in there, because it's a gorgeous vessel. There's definitely play with this ship to see more of it. Thanks for listening to Start Your Engines. If you want to be a part of the action and stay updated on all the latest Star Wars news, visit fanthatracks.com and be sure to comment, like and share on any of our social media feeds at Fanthatracks. You can reach out to us and send in your listeners' questions by emailing radio@fanthatracks.com. Subscribe, leave a review, preferably a 5-star one, on Amazon Music, Audible, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcatcher or smart speaker of choice. And as always, thanks to James Semple for composing the Fanthatracks intro, and our Start Your Engines opening music, Mark Daniel and Vanessa Marshall for our voiceovers, and of course the data miners at Wikipedia. Remember to tune in to Good Morning Tatooine. It's live Sunday evenings at 9 o'clock UK time, 4 PM Eastern and 1 PM Pacific on Facebook, YouTube and Twitch. And check out our Fanthatracks Radio Friday night rotation. It's every Friday night at 7 o'clock UK time for new episodes of The Phantom from Down Under, Planet Leia, Desert Planet Discs, Start Your Engines, Collecting Tracks, Cannon Fodder, and special episodes of Making Tracks, and every Tuesday at 7 o'clock UK time for your weekly episode of Making Tracks.
Coming up next on Fanthatracks Radio, it's Making Tracks.